Namaste. You're with Andrew at Yogi Moksha for another 90-minute functional yin yoga practice. Thanks for joining us. Today, the practice is going to focus on the lower body. There's a separate one for the upper body we produced recently. But today we're going to work from the toes basically up to the sacrum. We're also going to do a little bit of breathing and nadi work. So we're going to talk about nadis, which are energy channels in the Indian tradition. So similar to the concept of meridians in traditional Chinese medicine. And we're going to start with some breathing. It's called alternate nostril breathing. If you're already familiar with it, that's great. You can hop straight in. But for those that aren't, we're going to use our right hand. We're going to fold the first two fingers in, like so. And then we're going to use the ring finger and the thumb to block the nostrils. So we're going to be breathing in through alternate nostrils. And we're going to block the one we're not using. So if we start on the left, we inhale. We block the right with the thumb, and then we exhale, we block the left with the ring finger. It's a nice gentle breath, it's not forcing it. And we'll talk a little bit more about it in the few minutes we're just going to spend doing it. So you might want to come up to sitting on a block, keeping the back nice and straight. And extending that right hand with the ring finger and the thumb. Starting with the thumb on the right nostril, we're going to inhale through the left nostril, let's say for a count of 4. Pause, block with the ring finger, exhale. Inhale, right, exhale, left. Inhale, left, block, exhale, right. Inhale, right, exhale, left. Just continue with that at your own pace. Sometimes it helps to just close the eyes and just think about the breathing. And as we start, you want to make the inhale and the exhale the same duration. And gradually over time, maybe you just lengthen the exhale a little bit. The effect of lengthening the exhale is that we manage to get rid of more carbon dioxide and allows us to process the breath more efficiently when we next breathe in, get more oxygen into the bloodstream where it's needed. Just inhaling and exhaling. So inhale left, block the left with the ring finger, exhale right. Inhale right, block, exhale left. Over time, if we increase the length of the exhale, we might get it to 4 for the inhale and say 8 for the exhale. And at this stage, unless it's in your practice, don't worry about retaining the breath as we inhale or exhale. That can come later, and we'll talk about that in a future practice. But for now, let's just enjoy the last minute or so. Very balancing practice. The left nostril is the opening for the Ida nadi in the Indian tradition. feminine qualities, moon, calming. The right nostril, Pingala, is more masculine. More masculine in qualities and more firing up, engaging, energetic. So just in your own time, removing the block that you might be sat on. We're going to start our first posture. We're going to focus on the toes with everyone's favourite, the toe tuck. So coming onto all fours, we're literally going to tuck the toes underneath. Now, if this is really uncomfortable for us, we can take a little bit of pressure off by leaning forward onto the hands, and that's our way of controlling the amount of stress in this posture. So just find your edge, as we always do in our yin postures. We find our edge, pause, bring the attention to the target area, so around the toes, feet, and we relax. As we relax, we may feel that area open up a little bit. That might allow us to adjust a little bit. Maybe if we started off here, we can put the hands on the knees. But the important thing is just to find a posture where you can feel the stress, but you're able to stay there for some time, because time is the magic ingredient of yin. And the more we sit up, the more weight comes back on, the more stress. Just inhaling, exhaling here. You've got a little bit of stress coming up through the quads as well, but our primary focus is the toes and the healthy stress in the bones, all of the toes, giving them a good stretch around the joints, ankles, knees. Just a couple more breaths here. And all we're going to do now is just untuck those toes. Continue sitting in Seiza. And now we're moving from the toes up to the ankles. So again, same thing, if this is too much, we can come forward a little bit. Now we can even put a block in between. That'll take a little bit more pressure off if the ankles are suffering. And the more we come back, the more stress we're going to put on the front of those legs, the top of the feet, the ankles. So again, healthy stress in the bones, toes, ankles, knees, coming up the legs, and the connective tissue stress, quads, front of the legs. With our alternate nostril breathing, if we're finding that we're stressed at some point in the day, it's actually very beneficial just to use the left nostril, just to block that right nostril, breathe through the left nostril, very calming. And a few moments like this, you'd find maybe in a work situation or some other stressful situation, you'll find it actually helps just trigger that parasympathetic nervous system and just take the heat out of the moment. So again, we're going to stay here, but we're going to come back to the toe tuck. This time we're just going to add, sometimes called a reverse prayer. We're going to take the arms behind. Much like this. If that's not possible, then we can just hold the opposite elbows like this, or even just hang on to the shirt. So this is just going to add, we're adding a little bit more weight over the toes, so there's a little bit more stress here for this second round. But also as a bonus, we're just opening up the chest and the shoulders a little bit. Our primary focus here is obviously the lower body. So stressing the bones, toes, ankles, knees, femur. And the connective tissue stress coming up the front of the legs, quads. Just relaxing into the posture. I tend to use the alternate nostril breathing before any practice. I normally do 10 minutes of alternate nostril breathing, and it's just a great grounder. So it grounds you nicely, balanced energies. Just helps with that focus before you then step into the practice. Just a few more breaths here. If it's getting too much, again, you just lean forward a little bit, might take a bit of pressure off. Releasing the arms. Coming back into the ankle stretch, so just stretching out the feet. And if we feel like it, if we want a little bit more on this second round, just popping a block or even a bolster under the knees is going to, again, just increase a little bit the amount of stress that we're feeling in the target area of the ankles. In terms of variations, of course, if you particularly wanted to, you could add back in the reverse prayer for another increase in the stress. But for now, just adopting the yin mindset, finding that edge, and the full range of our motion, typically working around 60-70%, finding some stillness. And staying here for some time. And probably feel the additional stress in the top of the feet coming up through the front of the legs, a little bit in the quads. Again, working with the Indian tradition. There's a couple of nadis, or energy channels, that start from the base of the spine here, come up to the navel chakra or manipura, and then go down the legs and up the arms. So in this case, what we're stimulating is the ones going down the legs. And on the left-hand side, that's a nadi called Hasti Jiva. And on the right side, that's a nadi called Yashasvini. They come down and finish at a point in the middle of the feet before spreading out into the toes. And the end, or the aperture of the nadi, is the big toe. And the other end is the big thumb. So if we want to, we could just put our thumbs at a point in the middle of the feet, or there where we find it. And you're just stimulating that nadi, those two nadis, Hasti Jiva and Yashasvini. Yeah, just gently removing the block. So moving up the body, now we're going to work on the groins. So I'm just going to take the legs out to the side. Doesn't have to be 90 degrees or 120 or even 180, I guess, if you're that flexible. Just far enough apart that we can begin to feel some stress here on the inside of the leg, in the groin. And when we're there, we're going to fold forward. Options here would be folding forward onto the bolster. Fold forward onto our elbows. Some people like to support their head like so. Or you can just allow the torso to come towards the mat and the head to drop. Because we're after this target area here, the groin, we don't particularly want to round the back. If we round the back, then a lot of the stress goes to the back, which is fine when we're working with the upper body. But here we want the stress in the groin, so a straighter back is more effective. So we might want to just look forward, tilt the pelvis, and then as we exhale, just allow the body to come forward. Finding that edge. Using the breath to relax the target area, so breathing into the groin. As we exhale, feeling the stress leave that area, leave the muscles. And maybe that area opens up a little bit, gives us the opportunity to adjust, get a little bit more comfortable, or maybe even go a little bit deeper, maybe come out, maybe we need to support ourselves on our hands. But wherever we find ourselves, just find some stillness. Stillness that allows us to move into and out of the posture as we need. It also allows us to explore the tension in the connective tissue in the groin, coming up the inside of the legs. It might feel a little bit like the hamstrings as well. It's possible because the groin and the hamstring basically run alongside each other in the thigh mandala. So it's hard, if not impossible, to isolate them completely. And some healthy stress in the bones, so in the knees, the femur, the pelvis. Hip joint. And depending how much rounding we've got in the back, maybe there's a little bit of flexion there in the spine. Just getting the head in the yin space. Relax and surrender. Just gently walking back up with the hands. So our next target area is going to be hamstrings, running up the back of the leg. And there are a couple of options here. Let's start with the left leg. So we're going to keep the left leg out straight in front of us. And the right leg, you can either bring the sole of that foot in towards the inside of the thigh, the left leg, come forward, or just as I prefer, something sometimes called the half frog, we take the right leg behind us. Now for me, I find this easier just because of the way, the amount of external rotation I do or don't have in my hips. So for me this works better. But if you prefer the other version, that's fine. The important thing is the target area, the left hamstring. And so we start to find that edge. Again, options here. If this is really too uncomfortable, you could bring in the bolster. Some people like to have a block to rest their head on. And you find your edge, relax. Use the breath. Inhale into the target area, the hamstring, left hamstring. Exhale. Maybe feel the posture open up a little bit more. Maybe there's just a hint of the opportunity to open up a little bit. Maybe go a little bit deeper. Or just settle where you are. Wherever you are, finding that stillness. Exploring the connective tissue stress running all the way back up the back of the left leg, hamstring, left glute, right groin, and coming up the back, thoracolumbar, left hand side of the back maybe. And healthy stress in the bones, the knees, femur, pelvis, hip joint, Maybe a little bit of flexion in the spine there. And if today we're feeling receptive to subtle energies, we might again bring our attention back to the Hasti Jiva Nadi running from the left foot, the centre of the left foot, or even the big toe, all the way up the leg to the navel chakra or manipura. And you're just feeling the prana moving, energetic sensation moving up and down that left leg. Maybe even just creating a circuit, putting the left tip of the thumb on the left toe, big toe. Just releasing. Coming to the other side, so extending the right leg forward, and then either your choice, bringing that left foot in to the inside of the thigh, folding forward, or taking the left leg back. Whichever option, just starting to find that edge. So bringing the awareness to the target area, the right hamstring, back of the right leg. Making sure everything's relaxed. Finding that first point of physical resistance. Might be in quite a different position to the other side. Maybe one side you've got a lot more range of motion than the other side. So just being tuned into that and coming to the edge for this specific side. Using the breath to relax the back of the right leg, the target area. And then as it relaxes, maybe adjusting, maybe bringing in props if you want them, supporting the head, or the bolster across, or just going a bit deeper. Just working with what you have today, and finding that stillness, and using the clarity of the stillness, exploring that connective tissue stress all the way up the back of the right leg, the hamstring, right glute, left groin, right side of the back muscles, thoracolumbar. Healthy stress in the bones, the knee, femur, pelvis, hip joint. And maybe a little bit in the spine. And again, if we're working today with subtle energies, bringing our attention to the Yashashvini Nadi running from the right big toe up through the leg. Coming back to the navel chakra. And you're just feeling the movement of prana, energy, up and down through that channel. Bring that leg forward. And starting with our next posture, we're going to be working with the next target area is going to be the groin and hip flexors. So we're going to come into a low dragon. We're going to bring this left foot forward. Take the right leg out behind us. And because it's a low dragon, we've got our foot on the outside of the hands. We're going to come down onto the elbows. Well, if that's not possible, you come down onto the bolster. Again, if that's not possible, we can just stay here. Our target area here is the hip flexor of the right leg. We're also going to get some stress in the groin. So just finding that edge, relaxing, breathing in, exhaling, allowing that whole groin area to just relax and open. Connective tissue stress in the right hip flexor, left glute, IT band, groin, and healthy stress in the bones and knees, femur, pelvis. Not long here, just a few more breaths. Just relaxing as the groin moves closer to the mat. Now we're just going to transition to the glutes. We'll work on the glutes and the hip flexors. We're just going to bring this left leg in and across, keeping that right leg behind us. So now we've still got some target area of the right hip flexor. But a bit more emphasis now on this left glute. So we're going to find our edge. Relax. Breathing into target area. So to breathe into the left glute. A little bit longer here. So we want to make sure that we're comfortable, not pushing too hard. Making sure the position of the knee, we can move the knee in or out. The position of the ankle can be further forward or back. Just adjusting to make sure that we can stay here for a few moments, but that we're still getting some stress or tension in that right hip flexor and that left glute. As we settle in, some people prefer to use blocks to elevate the torso. Just going to put a little bit more stress back there in the right hip flexor. Some people just rest on their knee, or you can rest on the mat. Just finding the stillness, and then taking our mind through the connective tissue stress in the left glute IT band on the outside of the left leg. Coming across to the right hip flexor. Healthy stress in the bones, the knee, femur, pelvis, hip joint. There's some stress in the upper body supporting ourselves, but our focus is very much on the lower body in this practice. Let's just maintain that posture, opening up through the glute and the hip flexor on the opposite sides. Now all we're going to do is just walk ourselves forward, so walk the arms forward. Sometimes called a sleeping swan. We can get our elbows down on the mat. Again, if we need to adjust the knee in or out, or ankle, generally by bringing the ankle closer into the body of that front leg, that's going to take some of the stress off. So adjusting that as we need to. Otherwise, just finding that edge again. So we're going to probably lose a bit of intensity on the right hip flexor, get a little bit more on the left glute. Finding that edge, relaxing, maybe using the breath, and as we relax, we may find that we're comfortable to come in a little deeper. We can bring ourselves down to the mat. We can walk a little bit over to the left. We can walk a little bit over to the right. Just exploring some of those options and finding the expression that suits you today. And then when you found it, finding stillness and bringing our attention again back to the left glute, IT band. Connective tissue stress there. Right groin, maybe the hip flexor. Going up the left hand side of the back, the thoracolumbar. Maybe even moving through the physical, moving our attention to the more subtle sensations that are moving through. Hasti jiva, nadi from the left big toe all the way back up the leg, right up to the navel chakra or manipura. I'm just feeling the movement of prana or energy up and down that left leg. Just a couple more breaths here. And on the next inhale, going back. Take a little rebound now. Take a little rebound, so just lying flat on the back. Bringing the eyes to a close. And just using this rebound as an opportunity to open the mind to the sensations running through the body after the postures we've just worked through. Maybe comparing the sides of the body, seeing what feels different, how does it feel different. The whole area of the left glute should feel very different to the right glute. Right hip flexor feel different to the left hip flexor. But what does it actually feel like? Is it a fluid difference? Is it an energetic difference? Just developing that awareness or introspection, if you want to call it that, the ability to look inward and sense what's going on with the body after those postures. Just a few more breaths here. So now just going to come to the other side. So our target area is going to be the left hamstring, so bringing that left leg out straight in front. Right foot can be in against the left thigh, or we can take that right leg behind us. And then we're just going to start working towards the edge, just finding that edge, that point of first resistance, physical resistance. Might be different to the other side. Very often we're not symmetrical. We find that edge, pause, and relax. Maybe even use the breath, breathing into the target area, so the hamstring, the back of the body. As we relax, maybe finding the posture opens up a little bit for us. The options here are you can bring in the bolster on top of the knee here, use that. Some people like to support the head, so you can support the head on a block. Stay here, or we can just allow the body to come forward, resting on the knee or parts of the lower leg. Wherever we are, we just find our stillness. And then we use the clear vision that stillness gives us to come back to the target area. Explore the connective tissue stress all the way up the back of the leg, hamstring, left glute, right groin, left side of the thoracolumbar. And healthy stress in the knees, femur, pelvis, hip joint. maybe even a little bit of flexion there in the spine, depending how rounded we are. And if we're working with more subtle sensations or energies today, as we bring our attention back to Asti Jiva Nadi in the left hand side of the body, so the left big toe coming up the leg, coming all the way up the leg side of the body to the Manipura chakra or the navel chakra. And just feeling that energy moving up and down that leg, navel chakra down to the base of the spine. So gently coming back up. So as we do on the other side now, I'm going to bring the right leg forward. Take the left leg back. So put the hands in line with the foot. We've taken the left leg back, toes extended. So we're in a nice lunge. The target area is predominantly the hip flexor with the left leg. Just finding that edge. Pausing, relaxing. Relax, we feel that area around the hips opening up. Groin moving towards the mat. We might want some support, so we could use the bolster or blocks underneath our elbows. If we find coming to the mat a bit challenging. So just finding that edge. Pausing, relaxing. In the breath, taking the breath into the left hip flexor. Maybe we find that posture opens up a little bit. We go a little bit deeper. And just exploring that connective tissue stress. Right glute, left hip flexor. Stressing the bones, knees, femur, pelvis, hip joint. Just staying here for some time, allowing the yin to do its thing. A few more breaths. Now just bringing that right foot across. Like I say, the position, as we said on the other side, the position of the ankle and the knee is up to you. Ankle further in, less stress. More stress. And again, the knee can be in or out. So just explore with what works for your body. We're going to find our edge as usual. That first point of physical resistance. Feel that in the target area, in the right glute. Relaxing, maybe even breathing into that target area. As we relax, maybe the posture opens up a bit. We can walk the hands back, lifting the torso. Just going to increase the stress more in the left hip flexor and the right glute. We can put our hands on our knee and our foot. Some people prefer to use blocks. Just help support, opening up nicely the front of the body, maybe even a little bit in the rectus abdominis. Or if you prefer, staying with the hands. Again, the key is finding the depth that suits you today. The depth you can maintain allows you to relax and enjoy the benefits of the yin. If your breath is becoming choppy, that's a pretty good indicator that you may have gone a little bit too deep and maybe just need to back off a little bit. Because if we can't relax the muscles, then we're not going to allow the stress that we want to be in the connective tissues to get there. It's going to be contained within the muscles. Exploring that connective tissue stress here, the right glute, IT band, and the left hip flexor. Maybe a little something in the back, the thoracolumbar, as we elevate the torso. And healthy stress in the knees, femur, pelvis, hip joint. Nice extension of the spine. Compression of the spine's processes at the back, all the way up the back. Just a couple of breaths. And then as we exhale, we'll just just going to walk those hands forward. We're resting on the elbows for the moment, keeping the legs in the same position. We're going to find the stress moving from the hip flexor more to the right glute. We need to adjust the ankle or the knee as we come forward. We can do that. Finding the edge, relaxing. Maybe use the breath, breathing into the right glute. As we exhale, maybe finding the area opens up. We can adjust, we can walk the hands, the torso over to the right or over to the left. And we can stay up here or bring in a bolster. Or we can just come down to the mat. We're here for a few minutes, so important to be in a posture that we can maintain. And finding that stillness. Connective tissue stress. Right glute, IT band, left groin, right thoracolumbar. And healthy stress in the bones, knee, femur, pelvis, hip joint. Couple of breaths. And gently coming up. Out of there. Coming onto our back for a rebound. Lying flat on the back. Eyes closed if we're comfortable. Arms and legs relaxed. And bringing the attention to the areas we've just been working. So hips, hip flexors, glutes, both sides. And maybe again, as we did before, just comparing sensations in the left and right sides of the body. Again, all part of learning and becoming aware of our energetic or subtle body. So our next posture, we're going to work the quads. That's our next target area. Now, you might want to have a bolster to hand for this. So we're going to come kneel, we're going to sit back on our heels, knees slightly apart, I think, to start. And then from here, we're going to walk the hands back. Our target area is the quads. Already we can feel we've got some tension there, a bit of sensation. Some of us may want this bolster behind us. That just allows us to settle in. We can support ourselves on our elbows. And again, just finding our edge. Find that edge. Pause. Relax. Bring the attention to the quads. Breathing in there, relaxing the muscles. As we relax the muscles, again, we may find that the posture opens up a little bit. Maybe that allows us to move our elbows out and just lie back on the bolster. Maybe for some of us, if we're not getting anything in the quads there, we can just take that bolster out and just lie back. It should bring a little bit more tension into the quads. Another option, we can take our arms over our head, holding onto the elbows, or even extending the arms right out. And just finding that stillness here. Bringing the attention to the quads, front of the legs, both legs. Feeling the connective tissue stress there, coming up from the quads, maybe towards the hip flexors, coming in towards the rectus abdominis. And the healthy stress on the bones, toes, ankles, knees, femur, pelvis, hip joint. And got a bit of compression in the base of the spine and the sacrum there. Maintaining this stillness. Coming back to the target area of the quads. Maybe on the next inhale, just drawing that subtle energy, that prana, all the way up to the front of the legs, the front of the body. And exhaling all the way back down. Gently undoing one leg, waiting to the other side, undoing the other leg. The next posture is a twist. So I'm going to come back to lying on my back, bend both knees, cross the right leg over the left, either once, or if you can, tuck the foot behind again, do it twice. And then we're just going to allow the knees to fall to the left hand side. Although we might use this typically as an oblique target area, I'm also going to get some good stress or tension here in the glutes. So with our knees to the left hand side, just finding that edge. Pausing, relaxing. Exhale, feel the target area. Relax. Maybe that allows us to adjust, just go a little bit deeper. I tend to let the left hand just rest on the top of the knees. Not pulling it down, it's a nice light weight just to apply there. Extending the right arm up and out. Deciding which way the head's going to face. Just working out whether for you it's better to have the head facing this way or to the left. Always good to end practice with a twist, whether we're working the upper or the lower body. Just enjoying the final minute. Few more breaths. Next inhale, just bring the knees back to centre and unwind. Again, this time other side, so bringing the left leg over the right, either just folding it once or tucking the foot behind the leg again for a double twist. And just allowing the knees to drop to the right hand side. Again, just leaving the right hand perhaps resting on the top knee, extending the left arm above or out to the side. And making that decision about the location of the head. Maybe just exploring and seeing what's happening here in the target area, the left glute, as we move the head from side to side. And just settling on a position. Finding that edge, relaxing. Maybe using the last minute to just explore that movement of energy in the left nadi, jiva, the left big toe all up the left hand side, all the way up the arm into the left thumb. And just relax, releasing, twisting the legs, just maintaining your position, lying on the mat, ready for our Shavasana. So as you uncurl yourself from that posture, just lying flat on the back, eyes closed if you're comfortable, arms and legs relaxed. you want a blanket or some clothing for Shavasana, then grab it now. And just making yourself comfortable. And coming back to where we started, with a focus on the breath. Focus on the movement of the breath in and out from the body. Maybe your belly is rising, maybe your chest is rising. But whatever physical movements accompany the movement of the breath, just focus on those for the next minute or two. Focus on those to draw our focus inward. As we draw our focus more inward, let's bring our attention to the lower body, the area that we've been working for the last 90 minutes. And start at the big toes, both feet. Come up through the toes, the ankles, front of the legs, quads, quads on the front of the legs, the hip flexors, hamstrings down the back of the legs, glutes, even a little bit of work on the rectus abdominis. And as you bring your mind to these areas, perhaps try and compare how they feel now compared to how they felt at the start of the practice. Is there a sensation of openness? Is there an energetic sensation, a warmth, a coolness? Is there movement, pulsing? And just enjoy these sensations. You bring the mind back to the big toe. The mind back to the big toe. And move through the Jiva nadi on the left and the Yashasvini nadi on the right. Move with the prana up through the legs, up to the torso, to the navel chakra, back down to the root chakra, Muladhara. Movement of energy from the base of the spine up to the navel, down the legs to the big toe. Start to become aware of the movement of that energy, that prana. And if this is challenging today, just trace the line from the big toe up the legs to the navel, down to the base of the spine. The more we practice with the movement of prana, the more tuned into the energetic movement we are. The more we free the nadis of blockages, which reduces the incidence of illness, sickness. And the more prana we are able to take in and digest, we breathe in prana. Prana comes in, comes down to samana, or the area around the Manipura chakra. We digest it. Then move the nutrients to all parts of the body. And the distilled prana, udana, moves upwards through the body, transforming as it goes. Before we exhale, apana, the downward moving energy. The 5 pranas. We draw in with prana, digest samana, distribute vyana, higher order prana rises, udana, and we exhale or expel apana. Just enjoy the last moments in silence. Maybe now take a couple of deeper breaths. Inhale and exhale. Start to re-energize, bringing the body back to the room. Maybe wiggle the fingers and toes, listening to the little cracks as we do it. Keeping the eyes closed if we can. And your own time, just roll to one side, coming up to a comfortable seated position. And when you're settled here, just allowing the head to drop forward, and then very gently blink open the eyes, gazing at the floor or the mat for a couple of breaths before raising the head and the eyes. Namaste. Thank you for sharing this practice. I do hope you enjoyed it. We look forward to seeing you on the mat again soon. Namaste.